Welcome to Conversations Live. For more than a decade, we've brought you the best in books, entertainment, celebrity interviews, and current events. When the movers and shakers of the world have something to say to you, they say it to us first. Here's your host, Cyrus Webb.
Welcome back, everyone, to Conversations Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. But for a radio audience tuning in at WYAD 94.1 FM and WYADonline.com, we're glad that you all could be with us. Also, tuning in to our friends at iHeartRadio and Amazon Music Podcast. We're glad you all could join us as well. As we're beginning a new year and thinking about how we can be a better version of ourselves, a lot of times we're thinking about improvements to our health. A lot of times, though, we don't realize that could actually be linked back to our genetics. We're excited about our next guest because it's going to let you guys know not only about the importance of genetic testing, but how they can help you in getting a better picture of your own health for yourself as well as your family. Jerome Madison is joining us today. Jerome is the General Manager of Oncology at Invitae. We're going to talk to him not only about what genetic testing is, but also the benefits for you and how it can be something that's more affordable than you might think as well. Jerome, thank you so much for the time today. Really appreciate it.
Cyrus, the pleasure is mine. Thank you for having me.
So this is an important topic, and I think a lot of times when we hear genetic testing, Jerome, we don't necessarily think about something connected to our health. A lot of times we're thinking more about genealogy when it comes to finding family members. Let's start there, if you don't mind. What exactly is genetic testing, and how is it effective in kind of gathering information when it comes to our health?
Great question, and thank you for asking that up front, because genetic testing, in a nutshell, is how to examine your DNA. But there's a lot of information out there, and it can be very overwhelming when you start to Google or research what genetic testing is. But simply put, genetic testing is a way to examine our DNA. Our DNA of all human beings, no matter what your ethnicity or your geographic origin, is 99.9% identical. So we're certainly more alike than we are different. However, the remaining 0.1% of our DNA contains the variations that makes us all unique. Genetic testing is a way to examine that 0.1% of a person's DNA to find important clues about potential causes of a disease.
And I think that is a better way for our audience then to understand. So when we're talking about that, especially when it comes to disease, Jerome, how do genetics then play a role in the overall proactive health care? Because I think for a lot of people, as they're maybe diagnosed with something, they may wonder, and a lot of times, of course, when we're going to the doctor, we're asked about, other conditions in our family. Talk to us about the roles that genetics play in that when it comes to our proactive health.
Absolutely. An individual's genetics can have significant implications for their own health, the health of their children, and extended families. So it's important that you understand your family history and talk to your doctor about that, because it gives them a view on what to look for during your wellness visits on an annual basis. Genetic information, again, can give clues that might lead to a diagnosis or understand a genetic condition that can unlock information to guide a health plan for conditions such as heart disease, sickle cell, cancer, and it will enable your doctor, say, for instance, if there's been major changes in your health care. If you've been diagnosed with cancer, it can identify your risk, or if you have genes that make you eligible for innovative therapies or clinical trials in order to address your disease in a more personalized way.
I mentioned, Jerome, in my introduction that you're the General Manager of Oncology at Invitae. And, of course, when people hear oncology or an oncologist, they, of course, think about cancer. You just referred to that. When it comes to genetic testing, has it been found that there are some communities that are more at risk for certain cancers than other populations?
Yes, actually. So according to the National Cancer Society, the Black population is at a higher risk for death of cancer, even though the white population has the highest rate of new cancers every year. And, there's different reasons for those healthcare disparities, but genetics play a major role in helping to close the gap, because if you understand your genetic risk, it can help you to be more proactive. Your doctor may want to do more involved screening or bring you back more often. And it may provide clues that may lead to detection of disease that you don't have any symptoms of yet. So it's very important to understand your genetic risk and the role that genes play in proactive health care, especially if you are an ethnic minority or an underserved population. Cyrus, here's something else to remember about this and why it's important for communities of color to know about genetic testing. The drugs of tomorrow are being optimized according to those who participate in clinical trials and have genetic testing. Historically, there is a stark underrepresentation of African Americans and people of color in clinical trials. And if we are unaware of genetic testing and we don't have ethnic minorities that are being genetic tested to identify if they have certain genes that may qualify them for these therapies or clinical trials, that disparity will widen over time. So it's very important, which is why we're having this conversation, that your listeners understand what genetic testing is and talk to their family members to understand their family history on both sides and share that with your doctor so they may make a proactive plan for your health and wellness.
Well, Jerome, this is, I think, important, but I think one thing that everyone thinks about these days is cost. So let's talk about that. What advice do you have for those who may be considering genetic testing, but they're concerned about that fact, about the cost of it?
Well, it's certainly a fair question, Cyrus, because when you say genetic testing, it sounds expensive. But Invitae has done an amazing job of making access to genetic testing available for millions of people around the world and driving down the cost of testing. So first of all, if you have a family history of different diseases, your insurance plan may pay for your genetic testing. So it's important to talk to your family, understand your history, talk to your doctors. Secondly, even if you don't know your family history or you don't meet certain criteria for your health insurance to pay for it, you can get genetic testing at Invitae.com for $250 out of pocket. Here's the other very important thing for your listeners to know. There are experts in genetic testing called genetic counselors. However, genetic counselors tend to be at large academic centers or in urban areas. So if you are not in the city and you're a part of a smaller hospital system or in rural areas, they may not have genetic counselors, and your primary care physician may not be well versed in genetic testing. In that case, you can still go to Invitae.com. We'll help you get connected virtually to a genetic counselor to help them understand what implications genetic testing may have for you. And if you get tested, help you understand what your genes mean and what to do next about those results.
Very important conversation, Jerome, and it's a great way for us to start the year, informing our audience of the options that are out there, but also how they can take advantage of it. Again, everyone, Jerome Madison has been our guest. Jerome is the General Manager of Oncology at Invitae, talking with you guys about the benefits of genetic testing, but also how it can be something that is more cost-effective. Jerome, where can our audience go for more information?
If you have more questions, please go to Invitae.com. That is Invitae.com.
Jerome, thank you again for the great work you guys are doing, and thank you for the time today. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you, Cyrus.
And we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Conversations Live, part of a News You Can Use segment here at WYAD. Until next time, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Live. Let's go make today amazing. Take care.